Let's be blunt, are we in a World War III or just without official announcement?
I really think what he was trying to do is build up the threat of force and hoping not to use it,
Okay.
because that's consistent with his style.
So if tonight the US and Iran go in a full-fledged war, what breaks first? Oil price, stock market, or the Middle East itself?
This is an ongoing situation.
Oil and natural gas
prices are going to go up.
gas prices could increase.
The Strait of Hormuz has more than 20% of the world oil it passing through.
Yeah.
So if that closes, your fuel price, your EMIs, your job, everything changes.
You know, I hear people speculating that Trump has some bad advisors around him. There's people with different agendas. I don't have the numbers, but it's shocking how many members of the U.S. Congress have dual citizenship with Israel.
You are agree that Israelis are coming into the system so much in the depth that they are controlling the US government. So I don't think so. Now war is on the basis of the missiles and the interceptors. It's all about the math. They are already shutting down, or they are already increased the depth of the US government. It's $6 trillion to $39 trillion.
Yeah. I actually think that most tax money is stolen. At what the money gets spent on at a federal level, and I don't think the money's getting spent. If it doesn't, the country's going to be in a lot of trouble. Obviously, you can't keep borrowing at this rate. Venezuela is part of the drug pipeline to the United States. That if there was no fraud, waste, and abuse in the government, the tariff money actually would be enough to run the federal government.
Let's be blunt, okay? Are we in a World War III or just without official announcement?
Oh, I sure hope not. I mean, it has the potential to be World War III. I think we all can kind of feel that. It feels like it kind of got out of hand pretty quickly. I mean, people have different theories, but I'm going by Marco Rubio and what he said. He said that once Israel attacked, we felt like we had to go in because otherwise all our bases would have been hit. My sense, and this is just me, from watching Trump for a long time, I really think what he was trying to do is build up the threat of force and hoping not to use it.
Okay.
Because that's consistent with his style for the most part.
Yeah, exactly.
If you look at how much effort has been given toward trying to resolve the Ukraine conflict, it seems to me like NATO, some of the other NATO members were trying to not end the conflict. They were trying to increase the tension between NATO and Russia, where Trump was trying to decrease it. He was trying many times to get a deal there. And even in Venezuela, which was a very bold move, he tried several times to get a compromise, to get a deal there without having to resort to force. And so I think his style is, looking at the, going back to his The Art of the Deal, is often he comes in very hard with a first proposal that seems unreasonable. But that wasn't his goal. His goal was to compromise somewhere in between that he already had in mind. But he typically comes on hard. And I think in this case, according to Marco Rubio, Israel jumped in, and then the United States felt like they had to defend it all. And I think, and I could be wrong, but it seems like Israel pushed the U.S.'s hand, and now all of a sudden you're in a hot war. And I don't like it. I think it does have the potential to keep going and going, but I think there is a chance that it could be settled without continually escalating. But it sure seems like it's going to escalate if you look at it right now.
Yeah, even I think so. Because he did the similar thing for the tariffs too, right? That he wants to constant threat to every country. Okay. Now, after the tariff, do you think that he's like a kidding things that he's asking for the Nobel Prize, right? So
Well,
as
yeah,
he's talk
some people
about
said,
that,
yeah, there's
he,
no way he's going to get it now. That's for
exactly,
sure. Up until now, up before prior to Venezuela, maybe, but not since, not since then. I think he really does want to see the world at peace. It is somewhat of a paradox. People like to say, he promised no new wars, and he did.
yeah,
But
exactly,
he also said from day one that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, and he's spoken out about that even before he was ever running for president.
right.
That he saw a very serious threat there, and maybe it's just an American perspective, but I don't know any other country in the world that has as their official position death to another
Mm,
country. And they have as their official position death to two countries.
mm.
And so they are kind of a unique member of the world community, if you want to call it that. They kind of stand apart. No other country has that kind of position that they do. Or if they do, they don't speak it openly and often. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
so when he says Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon,
Mm,
it seems, at least from an American perspective, it feels like if they do, there was a good chance they would actually use it because of their rhetoric over a long period of time. We're
yeah,
not
that's
just
why.
talking the last 6 months. You can go back 10 years, and they've been saying death to America, death to Israel. So it really comes down to, do you take them seriously? Do they mean it?
Mm.
And so I think it creates a unique problem in terms of the balance of power in the Middle East.
Do you think that he wants to create a legacy because of its last term?
That he
That
wants to
everyone's want
create, what was that?
create a legacy?
A legacy, did you say?
Yeah. Mm,
I don't know. I mean, they say every president wants to have a legacy, but I don't think that war would be the legacy that he
mm.
wanted, given his past. It would be too inconsistent with past statements and past actions too.
Yeah, exactly. So if tonight the US and Iran go in a full-fledged war, what the breaks first? Oil price, oil price, stock market, or the Middle East itself?
Oh goodness. Well, the oil price is a given.
Mm,
If it goes into a full war, the oil price has to react quickly because it's a supply and demand thing. Now, I guess the thing is there's actually a buffer on the
mm,
supply. I think I heard there's 90 days supply floating in
mm,
the water right now. So I don't know how big that supply really is. Let's say it's 60 days, 60 to 90 days. So the price reaction would be on the anticipation of running out, not really running out. It would be the anticipation that nations will run out if it isn't resolved in time. But I guess what I'm trying to say is there is some buffer there. So it's hard to know how much the price will change. I mean, I'm surprised that it hasn't gone up more than it has already.
mm.
I mean, I believe as of a couple of days ago, it was still around $100 a barrel.
Yeah,
We've seen $150 a barrel prices in the past. So you would think with a level of conflict it would be much worse, and I think the reason it's not worse is probably two reasons. Number one, there's a buffer,
mm,
and number two, there's hope that it might not last that long
yeah,
because the market's going to price that in. Nobody knows, but the price is going to reflect that.
that's true. But you know what the scary part? The state of Hormuz, okay, that has a more than 20% of the world oil it passing through.
Yeah.
So if that closes, your fuel price, your EMIs, your job, everything changes,
Yeah.
right? So according to you, that what people should do right now?
Well, I always think that it's wise to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. I mean, yeah, it would be wise to, I don't like to use the word stockpile, but build up a reserve where you can.
Hmm.
Just simple things. Anything that's coming to your country through that strait that is a key resource, it
Mm,
would be wise to conserve that resource.
mm,
I do agree with what you're hearing on the advice to drive less frequently, avoid flying. I mean, I think until the supply is firmed up, I think that only makes sense to do those kind of things. If you're reliant on food coming through the strait, the same thing. I mean, I would stock up. I mean, what other choice do you have?
Exactly.
Yeah, to not do it would be foolish. And I'm sure everybody would really regret it if they ended up needing it. And it did get worse. The fighting did get worse.
Yeah. The problem with, I think, the Trump is that he's constantly changing his statement, right? The previous day, that yesterday, that he's talked about that Iran is surrender. After the 1 hour that he's saying that we has a good conversation with Iranians for the ceasefire, and the Iranian constantly immediately reply back that we never talk about this ceasefire. We are still in the war.
Yeah, I think it depends who they're talking to. I think he may be talking to other people. So it's the IRGC that I think is saying, no, he hasn't talked to us. But I think there's other players in there besides the IRGC that he may be speaking with. I was on a podcast recently. I had a member of the Iranian resistance group on with me, and Zulal Habibi is her name.
Okay.
And she's a member of an Iranian resistance group that's been around for dozens of years, planning for this eventuality of a nonviolent shift to a non-religious government, basically to a government that wasn't led by religious leaders. And they may be talking to that organization too. There's more than one potential representative. You can say the IRGC is it. Yeah, they're the people right now with the guns, but they may not be the ones that he's talking to to resolve this either. I don't know. We'll see.
But do you think any particular reasons that why we had a war with Iran? In the first statement, it says that he wants to do the regime change. Second statement, he wants change that they are planning for the nuclear weapon. Third statement was different, right? He wants to just oil price, because the oil price that they are doing the business with the China in the same currency, right? In the yuan, the China currency. Do you think because of that dollar's price, he wants to keep up high? He wants to just make the strong dollar. That's why he made it.
That's why we're having the conflict. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't think it's a strong enough reason. Not considering his past. This is the trouble. People tend to go by the very recent past instead of the long-term position over a period of 10 years. And so there's inconsistencies, right? I hear people speculating that Trump has some bad advisors around him. There's people with different agendas. A lot of people in the U.S. talked about how much is Israel influencing the U.S. government. And there's a lot of people that say it's a very strong influence within the U.S. government, that they have way too much influence with different advisors. I mean, I don't have the numbers, but it's shocking how many members of the U.S. Congress have dual citizenship with Israel.
Wow.
Shocking. I don't even think that should be legal, let alone happening on its own. So Israel seems to have an outsized influence. And so there's many people that say that the advisors around him are pulling him that way. That, if you think about intelligence agencies, for example, who give advice, who give reports, who provide some type of analysis, if some of that analysis is biased, or if there's an Israeli influence in there that's a big part of the advice that's coming in, and I'm saying if, because I don't know, and I'm not accusing, but I'm saying people are bringing this up in the U.S. There's a big question mark as to how strong that Israeli influence is, and so he could be getting a lot of conflicting advice. But I don't think, looking at his long-term history, that he's a person who wants war. But he is a person who goes in hard once he's made a decision. That is his style with everything, not just war, it's with everything. He tends to come on really strong. If you read The Art of the Deal, that is how he generally operates. So yeah, it's a mess right now, in my opinion.
So you are agree that Israelis are coming into the system so much in the depth that they are controlling the US government.
No, I wouldn't say controlling. I would say influencing.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So according to you, that who is the leader, Netanyahu or the Trump? Who is controlling?
Oh, I think Trump is. I think Trump is, but the influence with Israel is still strong, though. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I don't think that. I know that's the popular view. That Israel's running the U.S. I don't buy that, but I do think it's a strong influence.
Okay. Okay. Let's talk about the math. Okay. Now, Iranian missiles or Iranian rockets are like around the $5,000, and we are using the millions of dollars to shoot it down. If Iran has 1,000 of these cheap drones, how many days until the American defense budget collapse?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I know the U.S. reverse engineered a bunch of Ukrainian drones as well, and they have drones that they're using as well that are cheap, even cheaper than the Iranian ones. I've seen pictures of them.
Mhm.
I know that, yeah, a lot of our defense does use very expensive equipment, but you got to remember they also have the advantage of all the air power and everything else to knock out a lot of missile systems that the Iranians have. So to say they have a certain number, they only have that number if they can actually fire them off.
Mhm.
And the number of missiles has been declining rapidly by the week,
Mhm.
even by the day. So that tells me they're taking out a lot of launchers, unless for some reason the Iranians are just holding back and they're gonna release them later.
Mhm.
I think they're in too much of a dire situation to do a waiting strategy as more and more launchers and systems keep getting destroyed by the day. So the fact that it's slowing down as much as it is, I question whether they really have as much as they say. I think a lot of it's been destroyed.
Yeah. Even the right now, the Americans interceptors they have, right, to protect the or to shoot it down the rocket. They are producing the once in a year 42 only.
Mm-hmm.
And the Iranian has multiples, like thousands of rockets they have or thousands of missiles they have.
All right.
I don't think so. Now war is on the basis of the missiles and the interceptors. Now it's all about the math. They are already shutting down, or they are already increased the depth of the US government, right? It's from $36 million to $39 trillion. Sorry, $36 trillion to $39 trillion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you agree on that?
Oh, yeah. The debt's out of control. The debt is out of control. Yeah. I mean, if you really want to go deep, you got to look at the Federal Reserve and look at the fact that they are an international banking system. The Fed is only the U.S. wing of an international banking system.
Yeah.
And that when they were called before Congress, they wouldn't even say how they were spending some of the money. They
Mm.
refused to, and it's come out that they're actually giving money to other central banks. So they
Mm.
take the US taxpayer and give it to other central banks, including the European Central Bank.
Mm.
So a lot of the debt that's built up from loans and everything, I think it's highly questionable. I think it's very corrupt.
Mm.
I think it's much of it's been stolen and squandered, and I know there's a lot of people hoping for an entirely new financial system in the United States that would replace the Fed. That may be wishful thinking, but I don't think it's out of the question either.
Yeah. Many economists says that it's a full strategy that Trump has made. So because of that, it's increased the value, increased the depth that he wants to now to do the payment in the cryptocurrency. Okay. So that's why the cryptocurrency, the price will high.
Mm-hmm.
So after he do the payment in the crypto, okay, he will make it down the value of the crypto size. That's the plan of the Trump that the economy says. I'm not sure that whether it's true or not.
Yeah, I've heard things like that too. I really don't know enough about it to comment well on it. But something has to happen because the debt can't keep increasing like it has, especially especially now that the U.S. doesn't have the petrodollar advantage that it's had over decades.
Hmm.
That the BRICS currencies coming in and other nations are buying oil in their own currency.
Hmm.
So the leverage to just keep borrowing and borrowing with other countries buying your debt, I think those days are over. And yeah, the system's either going to break
Hmm.
or the nation's going to have to get the fiscal discipline. But I really think the bigger problem is actually all the corruption. when you look at, you're not in America, but when Obama promised all these shovel-ready jobs, and there was all this quantitative easing that dumped trillions of dollars into the economy, supposedly, we didn't see hardly any, shovels, so to speak, moving. We saw very little construction. You look at the state of U.S. airports and bridges and roads. Relative to the amount of tax money that's being collected, it's obvious that they're not really spending the money back on the people, that a lot of the money's stolen. It's obvious to me, at least. And so I think the biggest problem really is the corruption. Yeah.
But it's a small level that we never see that kind of a corruption, right? I'm not sure that at a higher level that how bigger the scam is happening. And recently that it happened like that. The daycare one, I'm not sure what's his name.
Oh, yeah, the daycare. That was awful. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the tip of the iceberg. They say it's even worse in New York. I'm hearing that, California is worse than Minneapolis, and New York is worse than California, and we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg. I actually think that most tax money is stolen. I think more than 50% is stolen in the United States. That's a bold statement, and I can't back it up with facts. I can only back it up with my eyes looking around at what the money gets spent on at a federal level, and I don't think the money's getting spent back into the public, and that's why when there's that much theft and you have to keep on borrowing twice as much as what you need because half of it's getting stolen. You do that over years and years and years. I think that's the real source of the mess we're in, is the corruption.
I agree. Yeah. But do you know how they are stealing our tax money?
Well, I think it happens in lots of ways. The examples in Minnesota and California and New York with these government programs. The problem is when you take in so much money under a government program and the government, the people running it, it's not like a company where if you waste the money, you're going to lose your job. Or the owner's going to say, what is going on? I'm getting less value out of all this money we're borrowing. Where's it going? The discipline doesn't seem to exist in the federal government to manage the money because it's not even their money. So because the discipline doesn't exist, it's just so ripe for corruption. And I think what we're seeing in Minnesota and California and New York, again, is the tip of the iceberg. I think it's the beginning. When we had the Doge program going with Elon Musk, he was uncovering a lot of things. It's a shame that it didn't end, but it's handicapped. It's only a fraction of the effort it used to be. But that had the potential to really uncover a lot more. I just think we're in a bad situation in terms of the level of corruption. I think it's going to come out, though. I really do. I think it's going to eventually come out. And, if it doesn't, the country is going to be in a lot of trouble. Obviously, you can't keep borrowing at this rate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So who is actually benefiting the US and Iran go in open war? The weapons companies, energy giants, or political leaders who need an external enemy?
Yeah. Honestly, I don't think anybody really benefits. I can't see. Now, okay, let's just say the best case scenario, that Iran stops becoming a threat to the Middle East and to all their neighbors. And there is stability in the Middle East for the first time. That would be the best outcome. There's stability in the Middle East. You have a new secular government, let's say, in Iran that is not a threat because of some religious beliefs that they need to wipe two countries off the map. And we have harmony. Okay, now in that case, there could probably be growing economies in the Middle East, and it's a good thing for the world. And everybody benefits if there's a truly stable Iran that's no longer a threat. So that the rest of that area doesn't feel like they need to be in a perpetual arms race. That would be the best outcome. In that case, everybody benefits. But short of that, to me, the U.S. doesn't benefit. I don't think we benefit by spending all this money on war. I don't know what benefit we have in the Middle East. Unless there's peace, there is no benefit as far as I'm concerned.
So why he did for the Venezuela? Why he did for the Afghanistan? Why he did for the Syria. It did war on that field.
Yeah, I'm
So
not
in
sure.
fact,
Could I just take Venezuela because I think that's a unique case.
uh-huh.
Venezuela is part of the drug pipeline to the United States. Venezuela is also the source
that
of the voting machines
Hmm.
corruption. Those Smartmatic voting machines were designed initially for Venezuela so that they
Hmm.
could rig their elections. And they exported that technology to the United States so that they could rig our elections.
Hmm.
That is a huge threat to the United States. And combined with the drug trade, yeah, those two things are unique. And I think they do justify taking out what was essentially a mafia drug lord. He
Hmm.
was not elected. It's not like any other government. It's not like you can say, oh, the people we elect. No, they didn't. He stole
Hmm.
their election using the same system that they were using to try to steal our elections.
Hmm.
And many would argue very successfully did, including our prior presidential election in this country. I think there's a lot of evidence for that that's been suppressed because it hasn't been allowed to come out in court. There's been no
Hmm.
discovery that's been allowed. It's always, you don't have standing, we're not going to hear it. And there's Smartmatic has been extremely aggressive in their legal pursuits. Tucker Carlson, when he was on Fox News,
Hmm.
was fired shortly after he questioned the validity of our election system for, I think it was 787 million, if I remember, almost $1 billion.
Hmm.
Fox News rolled over without a trial
Hmm.
and handed that to the owners of the Smartmatic system, whatever company that was,
Hmm.
without a trial. Again, the discovery never comes out on this, but like Dinesh D'Souza did a movie on it. It's called 2000 Mules, where they documented the theft of the 2020 election, where they bought the phone company records and they matched it up with video cameras showing 2,000 different people stuffing ballot boxes going from state to state and city to city. So, in my mind, there's no question this was stolen. And with Venezuela partly behind that,
Hmm.
between that and the drug pipeline to the U.S., I think that was a good enough reason to take out a drug lord, basically, which is what he was.
So there is no strong reason for the oil in Venezuela that he want to capture.
I think that's a secondary benefit. We have 100,000 people dying in this country a year from fentanyl alone.
Hmm.
That's 2 Vietnam Wars per year in this country. We're getting
Hmm.
hollowed out by that drug trade. That is the primary reason and you know what? It's down extremely. I've talked to some people that said the drug deaths in their city are down by 70% now. So it has had an amazing effect. They have really, between closing the southern border and shutting off the flow up the pipeline from Venezuela,
Hmm.
it has had a significant impact between that and also um, getting people out of the country with what ICE has been able to do. There was a survey of 40 large cities in the U.S., and the violent crime is at its lowest rate now in 125 years
Hmm.
for those 40 cities on average.
Hmm.
That's since 1900, the lowest level since 1900. So I think he is deadly serious about getting the drugs down and getting the crime down and restoring law and order in the United States. And I think that's his primary reason, in my opinion.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Now, if Iran decide to respond asymmetrically, like cyber, oil routes, proxies, what does they do the global market and day-to-day life for the people in India or the US?
I guess it depends how successful they, are. Obviously, I think it could have a major impact.
Mm.
It just, I'm surprised they haven't done it already. So, I mean, that's a good sign, but it's not a guarantee that they can't do it or won't do it.
Mm.
Yeah, I think it'd be tremendously destabilizing, especially on the cyber side, because we all know that everything's connected, water systems,
Mm.
power systems. There's almost no limit to the damage you can do with cyber attacks if they're successful enough. So, yeah, that would be a huge concern.
I agree. Do you think that next time that they have a plan to cut out the internet?
Well, I think kind of announced it, didn't they, with Klaus Schwab talking about that a cyber attack would make how did he say it? He said it would make COVID seem like a walk in the park or something like that. I mean, they had Event 201 where they basically did a preparation for the COVID event in 2019 before it ever happened, and it was almost. I have that in my book. The globalist plan to collapse everything. There's has 175 QR codes, and one of those QR codes takes you to Event 201, where you can watch the replay. Not a replay. It was before the event ever happened, and you would swear that you were seeing actual newscasts in the United States that happened during COVID, but that was before COVID. So, they did the same thing with Cyber Polygon. That was an advanced test of imagining a cyber attack and how we would respond and how the public would respond. It hasn't happened, thankfully, but it sure seemed like the pattern was there. It almost not that they were worried about that it would happen. It was almost like they were planning for it to happen, and they wanted to do a dry run on how they would manage it. That's what it feels like. I don't know. It's hard to say, but I think there are forces that want that to happen. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. Imagine if the internet is cut down, how it happened to the world.
Oh yeah. Yeah, let's hope they don't. They're not able to pull it off.
Okay. Do you think that American public is prepared for this war emotionally and economically?
Well, I think it's causing a lot of division in the Republican Party. I think if it continues too long, that the midterm elections will definitely be impacted. People feel very strongly about it. The ones who are watching it closely, they feel very strongly about it. It seems to me like a big portion of the Trump base feels totally betrayed by this war. There's other portions of the Trump base that are, well, let's wait and see. And then there's another portion that just trusts them blindly, But either way, it's chipping away, and it'll have an impact. We're seeing gas prices rise. Where I am, they went from, let's say, $3.25 in the $3.25 to $3.45 range to $4 now. So, but under Biden, they got up to like $5. So, it's been worse before. But I think psychologically, nobody wants to see it going backwards. One of the best things Trump did was bring gas prices down pretty rapidly by opening up exploration and taking off government regulation. But now it feels like we're going backwards, and that psychologically is tough. If it gets really bad and supply chains are disrupted in a major way, then I think it would be the consequences would be incredible in terms of elections and who comes into power. That's really dangerous, in my opinion. But obviously, it's not just the U.S., it's the rest of the world. And some places obviously are much more reliant on the strait, and they're feeling the impact in a greater way. And I think for that reason alone, we got to end this as soon as possible.
Yeah, exactly. Right now, the whole world is in chaos, right? That because of that oil prices, everything, the inflation goes like boom, right? And the other side, because of that AI, the jobs are really cutting down.
Yes.
The people are so getting frustrated. They are not able to understand what would be the next step they want to do in a life. They want to continue with the jobs. They want to find some other business. Even the business, they are not sure that whether it go up or down.
Yeah.
They don't find any kind of opportunity, right? So according to you right now, what is the biggest opportunity as you see, as you already do the marketing stuff, right?
Yeah.
According to your market research, what's the latest opportunity right now that people should grab on?
Well, I think just basically they should look at the most AI-proof jobs and consider that as their career if they're young. I would be looking at the things in the, we call them the trades, the physical trades, HVAC, heating, air conditioning, plumbing, carpentry, high skilled manufacturing, jobs that require knowledge that AI can't do. And usually it's the physical things that will be the hardest for AI to duplicate. So if you have, I'll just give an extreme example. So there's carpentry, but then there's advanced carpentry. There's even things like timber framing, which are going back to the old style carpentry that was used to build these massive buildings and churches in the past. But that's actually a skill that's in demand in America for certain types of structures, that it's becoming popular to use timber framing. So that would be an example of a skill that a computer can't do, that AI can't do. On the other hand, the other thing would be to become all in on AI and to become good at all of it, to become great at creating graphics, great at tying AI platforms together, to be able to create programs and things at a scale that actually makes you valuable because you know how to leverage it. So it's one of those two extremes, I think. But I think if you're just in a regular career where you think you're going to get through the next 10 years doing what you always did, I think you're in trouble, because even attorneys and doctors, their jobs are under threat, because AI can do, put in the symptoms and it'll give you the potential solution, right? It's all a formula. So I think we have to be, like I said, I think we have to really either learn how to use AI and go all in, get the right training to make ourselves more valuable, or go into the trades and look for things that AI, it'll be a long time before it can do, if it can ever do it.
Yeah, even the Many CEO says that in the future that plumber will be the millionaires.
Yeah. They're already pretty expensive here. Oh my gosh. I had one electrician say that they charged $300 just to show up. I thought, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? But I don't know if he must be a really expensive electrician, but yeah, there's people that really abuse it because it comes down to supply and demand. But I'd rather be in one of the trades, than in a job that has no future because AI is going to take it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's talk about the economics of US. Okay, the dollar still king of the global economy or the global money at a 59%. But the BRICS says, nah, okay, we are done with you. So is this a first crack in the America's money? Because the BRICS wants to create a global money that they can trade in that particular money they are talking about, right?
Yeah, I think that's the second crack. I think the first crack was when the U.S. went off the gold standard in '71, and then the second crack was when we went off the petrodollar, when nations started trading in their own currencies, and then BRICS is the third one. So yeah, I don't think there's any way to stop it. I think the world's becoming more multipolar, more independent. It used to be more of a unipolar world with the U.S. dominating so many things. I think those days are over. Marco Rubio even said that a few months ago, that we're moving to a multipolar world. And he was saying that that's actually what the U.S. wants as well. We want to, and Trump has pretty much said that. He has said that, yeah, he's America first, but he said every country ought to be their country first. We should do deals country to country, not these giant global deals where people can manipulate it and twist it, and where you have such winners and losers. It should be country to country. That's an example of a unipolar world, and I think the economy's going that way. I think the dollar's going that way. I don't think it's going to be a super fast thing, but I think it'll continue to go in that direction, just as it has been.
Do you think that that's why he threatened to the BRICS about the 100% tariff to diss the dollar? Do you think that is it the boss energy, panic, or both?
Okay, so I've been watching Trump for a long time, and I watched him from before he came into office the first time, where he was talking about bringing manufacturing back. And I told some people around me, including my children, I said, if he does this, you will see for the first time in decades the average purchasing power of the middle class go up, because we haven't seen that in over 20 years, hadn't seen that. And sure enough, as he started bringing jobs into the U.S., bringing back manufacturing, wages went up, purchasing power went up for the middle class for the first time. And I think what he's doing right now, and this is just my opinion, I haven't heard anyone else say this. I think it's a race against the clock. I think he knows that between the national debt
Mm.
and between the independence of different world currencies, losing the petrodollar advantage, that this is a race against the clock to reindustrialize America so that we're spending money within our own country to everyone's benefit instead of sending so much of it out to China, right? So that we can once again become an industrialized country with all the benefits that go with that. And, you know, it's really the globalists that were trying to deindustrialize the entire West. America, all of Europe. I mean, it's all been pretty much deindustrialized. And to our great detriment. I'm old enough to remember when America made everything. We had Texas Instruments, we made our calculators, our dishwashers, our microwaves. We not just our cars. I mean, we made pretty much everything. Not that we couldn't get it from other countries, but we could make it here. And there were many more jobs. I mean, when I graduated from college, it wasn't a question of would I get a job or would I even get a good job. It was what kind of job should I try to focus on? Like what would be the best choice? But now it's like people are worried about, will I get a job? Can I find a job?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think every country would benefit from reindustrializing if they're not industrialized right now. I mean, you look at Russia, what they did because they got cut off from tariffs and all kinds of penalties and everything. They became self-sufficient. And now they have a roaring economy, from what I hear, a very independent economy, a very, what would be the word? A very robust, not fragile, right? They're in a good place. And it's because they totally reindustrialized. I think it's a perfect example of what the U.S. needs to do and what every country that has offshored everything to China needs to do as well.
But don't you think, sir, that could be some loopholes also? That's why it's not become the industrialized. Let me just give you the example. So one of my cousins that is really starting a company he's manufacturing the plastic banner, the plastic wrapper. Okay. The thing is that he wants a machine to build that particular product, right? So he went to the one American company. So he cost about the $1 million. Okay. Now he ordered the same machine from the China. Okay. With the tariff, right now the tariff is so high. So $100K with the tariffs is $160,000. Okay. So it's cost around that one. Now, after that, he made that particular product. The production cost is around the $11 for a one product. Okay. Now the companies are saying that we already have a vendors, but the vendors are given the price. It's coming from the outside, either from the Thailand or either from India or somewhere else or China. They are costing around $7 to $8 with tariff. Okay. Now see the difference. You are manufacturing in the US that costs you $11 and there is no any employees. If you include the employees, obviously the cost will be the high. So why that people are still, I know that Trump wants to do the industrialize here, but the cost of the production would be the more high. So at that time, what people should do?
Yeah, I think, as far as the U.S., if you're given the example of if we make it here, it's going to cost more. That's pretty much,
exactly.
I think,
that's why
line.
the Apple bring to the Dubai or the India, right?
Yeah. So I think the offset to that is everybody's income also goes up because supply and demand forces it to go up. I lived in those times when we had a strong manufacturing base. And I think, yes, with the tariffs, I mean, the tariffs are used to raise the price of the incoming goods so that Americans, let's say, can match it by making it internally, let's say. And so, yes, people pay more. But can you imagine how much more tax revenue there would be, just for example, if a greater percent of Americans are working at good paying jobs, not service jobs, right? So you have less people on welfare draining the system. You're paying out less in tax revenue. So, the whole velocity of money, it just keeps getting spent within the country. The example I've used before is if you want to get a haircut, and let's say in the US, a men's haircut, I don't know, $25, let's just say.
Yeah.
And so you say, you know what? I'm going to teach my wife how to cut my hair and give her the $25, right? So she gets the $25. Now that money stayed in the purchasing power of this household, right? She can go buy food, whatever. But if I pay somebody else, it goes out. And that's kind of what we're talking about. It's just, does it go out to another country or does it stay in your household, your country? And when it does, that money's there to spend again. When it goes out, it's gone.
Exactly.
So it's a multiplier effect. And I think there will be some pain, but I really think it's in the interest of every country to get to the place where they manufacture the things that they have the resources to be able to manufacture. I think everybody's better off.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, now if the de-dollarization hits hard, what it means for you and me?
Well, I think what it means is less purchasing power, right? If countries don't need dollars, then things priced in dollars are going to go higher. It's going to take more dollars to buy things. So I think I'm not sure where you are, what the impact would be. But I can say that here in the US, it would be less and less purchasing power for imported goods is how I would see that. Imports get more and more expensive. So, yeah.
The petrol double, right? iPhone double, everything triple price, job gone. Okay, now try to paint the picture, okay, that what does the America's fall actually look like on the ground, ATMs empty, riots in the street, or just a quietly becoming one of the guys on the world stage?
Well, you're assuming there's going to be a fall, right? You're saying if it does happen, what does it look like? I guess that depends how hard the fall is. Yeah, it's hard to imagine that because I would need a more specific example. I mean, what I see right now, unless we can turn it around, is a slow decline. But up until this war, things were going in the right direction in some very important ways. The trillions of investment into the US, the declining drug problem, the declining crime problem, were all things that were giving hope to some people who were aware of it and watching for it. I think we were on a track for a much better, stronger economy if it would have not gotten interrupted with this war. I really personally think there's globalist forces that wanted the war in order to derail Trump's whole program. The first time he was running really strong, then COVID came in, right, and derailed it.
Yeah.
We were on another path of really strong growth and a strong outlook in many ways. And then this happened. So to me, it feels like it's been derailed again, which is why I want this thing to end as soon as possible. We get back on track and pick up where we left off.
Do you think that will it happen soon? Suppose if all the countries are
I mean, right
together.
now it looks to me like things are accelerating the wrong way. It looks like we're getting deeper into it, not withdrawing from it. So yeah, it looks like it's getting worse. I just pray cooler heads will prevail and we'll somehow extract ourselves from this. The one thing I have noticed about Trump is he does have the ability to change course quickly if he's convinced there's a mistake. He can change quickly. So as we know, so that could be a good thing in this case. But yeah, we will see. It doesn't look good right now.
So do you think that that's why right now that he's making the guilt of the defense secretary recently that he just given the news, right? Because of the defense secretary told us that something is going to happen Iran side, let's do it. We're going to have a war. So he made it okay, just let's do it.
Yeah, I don't think it's that simple, but somebody around him convinced him that there was a real threat. That's what I would like to know. Who did that? Because we don't have information to intelligence. We really don't. So all we can do is guess, and we have to judge by outward circumstances that we can see.
Right.
We really don't know. But I mean, just for example, Iran wasn't supposed to have long range missiles, and we just found out that they do.
Yeah.
Right. So there was a big surprise. Well, what else do they have that we weren't being told about? So there's a lot of unknowns here, and we don't know what kind of intelligence they might have. So I'm a little hesitant to jump on the I'm just not of the opinion that Trump's a total loose cannon. I know he changes his mind on a lot of things, but I still think he's a very intelligent man who against all odds has been able to do a lot of things nobody thought could be done in a good sense. So I don't think he's just some emotional guy that's reacting to somebody that said something. I think somebody brought some intelligence to him and he believed it.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, according to you, that who bring down the empire down? I mean, who kills the empire faster? The outside enemy like Iran, China, or Americans' own debt, $39 trillion?
Well, I think that the debt is the bigger problem. Yeah, and the more immediate problem. But there's also people within this country that want to bring it down and have been working on that for years.
Hmm.
When you look at, there's one party in this country that brought in, opened the southern border wide to roughly 10 to 20 million people, depending on what you believe, in the last 4 years. Wide open borders with no checks whatsoever, just wide open. I've heard numbers from trustworthy sources that say we've had at least 5,000 Chinese, mostly military-aged men. Now, why would they be here? I heard that Pam Bondi, the head of the DOJ, she said that ICE arrested 4,000 Iranians. This was before the war started. I saw her on TV saying that they expelled 4,000 Iranians from the country. What are they doing here? What are they doing here? So, but the fact that we have one party that opened the door to all this and who seems to be at the center of most of the corruption tells me that that party wants to bring down the U.S. I think the greatest threat is from within. I think it's even a bigger threat than the financial problem, which is also due to a lot of crime.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard, I don't know if I believe it, but I'm inclined to believe it, that if there was no fraud, waste, and abuse in the government, the tariff money actually would be enough to run the federal government.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a shocking thought. Yeah. Again, I think more than half of it's being wasted, far more. But, I don't know. I don't have proof. I just have to look around, and I can't help thinking that.
Yeah. So according to you, suppose if you want to explain a 20-year-old guy, okay, who doesn't care about the geopolitics news or anything, okay, why should he scare for the US and Iran war?
Why should he be afraid of the US and Iran war? Well, number one, economically, it's going to drain the country of resources to keep fighting a war, to borrow more money, go further in debt, and potentially just be one more thing that leads to an economic collapse. It's one more thing that wastes money and resources. Number two, if it keeps going on, it's more and more instability. We pay more for everything around the world because shipping lanes are blocked and countries don't trust each other. It increases the chance that they may get drafted. They may have to go off to war. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I think every rational person wants a world that's at peace, not at war. So I think those are all good reasons.
Yeah, exactly. Who wants to care about the other countries, right? Every man or every person take care about their own home, right? That what he gonna eat tonight. That's the only thing that he was looking for.
Yeah, that's the most important thing. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Are you familiar with that pyramid? The hierarchy of needs at the bottom, it's the physical needs. Yeah. And then you start getting to emotional needs. And, at the top of the pyramid is be all you can be, self-actualization. Well, when the tougher things are, the more you're at the bottom of the pyramid. That's where your concern is. If you don't have enough food, all you care about is food, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have enough air to breathe, all you care about is breathing, So yeah, as things get worse, then we're kind of living on that level where I don't think we want to be living.
So you are agree that if this war goes wrong, then ultimately that we the people who pay the price, not the politicians, not a general.
Well, we pay the price. Hopefully the politicians pay the price by being elected out of office, but doesn't seem to happen to them too often.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.